Morning Glendale. My name is Robert Heidt. I'm President and CEO of the Glendale Chamber, and thank you for joining us for another edition. Today, we are privileged to have the one and only Brian Friedman, the Director of Economic Development for the City of Glendale, join us. And if you've been paying attention to anything in the news or anything in communications that have gone out from the city, Grow Glendale, or the Chamber, you will know Glendale is literally on fire from an economic development standpoint. We've got a lot of activity happening. And so first and foremost, welcome, Brian. Thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you, Robert, for having me. Appreciate you.
So to start off for many of our viewers, if you'll take just a moment, tell us a little bit about who Brian Friedman is. For those that don't know who you are, give us just a quick minute. Who's Brian Friedman?
Oh, thanks, Robert. That's nice. Since I don't know the questions that are coming, this makes this all the more fun. Basically, I'm an individual who's been lucky enough to serve the citizens of Glendale for more than 20 years. I have literally the best team in economic development in the state, without a doubt. We're small in terms of number, but we have long tenures, and we're happy to serve as a collective group, and that everything we do is a function of what comes from the folks that lead our institution with the city council, down to our city manager's office, and those are the department heads and folks that serve there. And together, you know, as a municipality, I think we are certainly making a name for ourselves. We are very different, and really, it's nice to wake up every day energized about the day ahead. Very lucky.
Well, and I think for those that don't get to know you the way I've gotten to know you over the years, or who work with you, the one of the values that you bring to the team in leading economic development is in all the stages of A to Z, you've worked in all those different departments along the way, whether it is in planning or zoning, with code, all those sort of things you bring to the table to make that even better. So let's jump into a few questions, Brian, where this will be in your wheelhouse. You know, for those that don't quite understand, what is economic development and what does your team do on behalf of the residents and the city of Glendale for economic development?
Sure. Basically, we are that interface between the open market, between landowners, between the development community, and folks that are looking, like end users that are looking to come into the community and invest their capital, so that in the end, we are lucky enough to be able to work with all of these different groups to bring capital investment and jobs, and with it prosperity, because in the form of jobs comes a quality of life. Without a job, for most all of us, quality of life is really hard to obtain, and so we recognize the importance of our occupation and our chance to really, you know, be multilingual in our approach to each individual stakeholder's needs, and parlay those amongst all of the folks that are that worked from the first hello to C of O. And that's a super important, you know, it's an experience for us. It's a relationship that we hone and maintain both internally and externally. And we see our role as, you know, a group of people that really are responsible for understanding everyone's silos, what motivates them. What motivates a broker or a landowner is very different than what motivates an end user. One may be a sale, a transaction, a commission. One may be getting a C of O as soon as possible to get open and operational a quarter faster. If you're an individual on the internal side, it may be, how do I get your project processed fastest, because I'm doing a portion of it, I'm just doing undergrounds, for example. Someone else, like the city attorney's office, may be looking at the development agreement. We have to know each and every portion of the opportunity that we have to serve the end user, or the developer, or the broker, or the site selector. We have to really understand each disparate part and try to help everyone coalesce and get the end result taken care of, which is welcoming their capital investment and jobs, and having them hopefully enjoy the experience with us as people and come back and want to do it again.
Well, one of the things, Brian, I think you and your team there do well is that speed of service. It's not that anyone's cutting any corners, but understanding that every day is a dollar to the private sector. And so Glendale has become known for that expedient service to making sure that the process moves smoothly and efficiently, and there really is no room for error or hiccup and delay, which is remarkable because, again, in the private sector and on the commerce side, that those dollars mean something to get that payroll and that business up in motion. So kudos to you and your team. So with that, let's transition over to, you've got a number of amazing projects. You usually will spout off all kinds of facts and numbers about how much is in play right now, how many square feet are in development. Tell us about some projects you have going on that would be music to the ears of the world of not only the citizens of Glendale, but to the business community within in our boundaries.
Sure. Glendale is in a very, very enviable position just as a municipality. It's the golden rule of location, location, location. And as a tier 1 city right next to Phoenix with, several freeways bisecting, running through us or very near us, we have a lot of oceanfront property from that perspective. We have, obviously 2 of the 4 major sporting teams. We have both major malls, one Tanger Outlets, the other Arrowhead in our jurisdiction. We've got 5 or 6 universities and colleges. We have Luke Air Force Base. We have 3 or 4 hospitals, however how you look at that. We have major industries here, 20 large corporations, over 500 employees. We are extremely fortunate and absolutely with our own regional airport as well, a full service city in and of ourselves. And we are, experiencing growth like we haven't before in a very different way too. Having been here for a few decades, or at least 2 plus, I've had the chance to really sort of pitch Glendale, and I've seen the change of how difficult it is, or how not difficult in the case presently, and how things are really changing for us as a community and the way the open market sees us, which is really important because that is the perception I think you were talking about earlier, the perception of us as a community. And so one of those things that I've kind of thrown up on the screen for you is just a quick look at Arrowhead. People think of Arrowhead as well. It's a very nice area. Demographically, it's very strong with household incomes that are 6 figures or greater in the greater Arrowhead region. And when you think, well, it's mostly built out. Well, it is built out, but things are changing. What's changing is the types of end users that are moving in. For example, the land's become pretty valuable. The location demographics speak for themselves, period. And that's why you saw, Cadillac come in earlier, and now BMW on the other side of the Loop 101 in Glendale. And now you see Land Rover, Jaguar, and Range Rover under construction. And so those types of luxury end users that are coming in really speak volumes about the capacity of the average citizen in the area, their household demographics in the form of education and professionalism. And those are the types of things that are completely changing our demographic. So when you see those, when a site selector or a broker comes in, and an end user comes in, they ask, where do I get my BMW, my Jaguar, my Rover, or my Cadillac fix? And you say, right here in Glendale. That matters, and it matters significantly. And in the past, by not having that, we've been harmed by that. We've also had, notions of, well, where are the fancy, fun eateries that we can get in the East Valley? Where are those, like luxury car dealerships now in Glendale? Where are those up in the Arrowhead area? Well, recently we've had Matt's Big Breakfast, Illuminati's, Barrio Queen come in and take over the space where the brewery was formerly on Bell Road, about 72nd, north side of the street. So we're seeing that transition of either as-built new properties that are welcoming these chic, fun, new, millennial, fun places to go and have breakfast. And, it matters to quality of life, and it matters to the image of a community. To be a full-service community, you have to have all the list of things that we just got done talking about, and then the smaller slices of quality of life that matter to residents looking for everything. And that's what we're seeing change here. It's in, Banner Health, for example, is invested again another couple 100,000 square feet right on the Loop 101. You can see the change of the skyline, the mid-rise skyline along the Loop 101 at the curve.
Sure can.
And the way that kind of, Robert, that feels and what it says about a community that, develops nicely. And then the last bits that are literally there were 11,400 truckloads of dirt that were trucked in to build up the BMW dealership and the others that are just north of it coming in, the other luxury dealerships in the auto mall collection of luxury dealers. That is expensive to do, and they only do that when it's required. And it's also the last bit of land kind of in the region. We're also experiencing that just south of that, just south of BMW at Bell Road, just near the river. There's a four-story residential campus that has come in. And we're seeing densities at 400 units, 4 stories. And that's a first for that area. If you think about 79th Avenue, and it's extremely nice, the Garden Residential that's next to sort of the Garden Medical Office off just north of Costco. That was, in its day, extremely nice. And the boulevard looks amazing, and from a landscaping palette and a perception of the region, it plays well with the homes that are lakefront in Arrowhead, as well as Hidden Manor that has the 1 acre lots. The values are obviously increasing pretty exponentially. But now when you see land that's really challenging land to build on, no different than the luxury auto row collection and the 4-story that I'm talking about, it'd be just for your mind's eye, it'd be just to the east of the Arrowhead Honda dealership.
Gotcha.
So imagine a 4-story multifamily luxury apartment complex coming out of the ground there with access to the north over by Sam's Club. So we're seeing the last bits of land really be taken, and the types of density, the rates that are being able to be charged because the area purports that kind of a rent rate, all helps the city enormously in terms of revenue collections and how the council then take those revenues and serve the citizens of Glendale. This is a maturation process, and it's high time for Glendale to take its proper place as a tier 1 city. And that's what we are experiencing from the rush of one-time capital. And I'll go through a few others, if you don't mind, a few other signature areas of the city, and provide sort of very factual and picture-based imagery to help the general public understand really what's transacting.
All right, move us down the road. Where else do you want to take us on this journey of development?
Perfect. Okay, so just heading south then into the Glendale Air Park. In 2019, the image that you see on your screen there, the parcels in blue, there were 19 of them. They were all for sale in 2019. If you look at the next image that's popping up on the screen, this is February of 2020. In February of 2020, there's 1 property left, and it's only a partial because half of it sold. And so when you think about how long the air park has been around, to know that there were 19 parcels and now there's half of 1 parcel remaining.
Yep.
And not only is there half of 1 parcel remaining, the other in that same period of time, there are 9 projects under construction at the air park, 4 of which by the same company, which is LGE, including Coca-Cola's 3rd expansion of their office, and then now a major 165,000 square foot expansion to the Coke facilities. The whole air park is pretty much cranes everywhere. And so it says a lot when Arrowhead demographic is amazing, and every bit of the available land is being built upon and raised out of the floodplain. The end users are changing to a more sophisticated, top-notch, high-end type eatery, retailer, or restaurant. And you see in the air park and that cluster there, we've sold out all properties, and half of them which are already under construction. If you come over and look at the Loop 303, which is the next map that's up on the screen there, you'll see that we started this in December 10th, 2018 was the last direction we got from council that, okay, we would like to give staff direction to go ahead and out of our MPA, out of this 5 miles on the Loop 303, we would like to go ahead and full tilt this and welcome industry that protected Loop Air Force Base, which is basically industrial, for the southern half of the 2.5 miles, and industrial and or commercial north of about the Northern Avenue Parkway. Go ahead and begin in earnest welcoming corporations to Glendale in this area. We thought we'd have a great amount of success because of what's been happening south in Goodyear, and we, as a team, as good as we think we are as forecasting, missed the mark by a great margin. We now have 85 prospect projects in the pipeline, which is an untold number that you would think couldn't possibly be true, except for you're looking at an image on the screen there that kind of depicts what's happened. The items that are circled in red, those are active projects under construction, which are more than 7 million square feet of construction. So to give you an idea of scale and what that means, Arrowhead Mall is just a little over 1 million square feet. So that'd be the same under roof area as 7 Arrowhead malls under construction at one time, just along the Loop 303 at present.
When you think about that, Brian, the impact that has for us as a community, as a region, from the jobs that it creates to the quality of life, to the new people that will be relocating to the area. Again, your team is very mighty in that sense, because that is a lot of projects and a lot of fine details to manage within the complexities of each of those projects that you're working on, that you've kind of identified.
Yeah, and we've actually learned as a culture and as a team of departments that work together, sister development departments, we've learned that it's much, much easier to actually do things in a blitzkrieg fashion, sit with them, ask them what they need. What are your timelines? What are your deadlines? What are the pressures you're under? In the case of White Claw, they said, nice to meet you in October of last year. We want to be open the summer of this year in a 917,000 square foot building. We said, if you think you can do it, we know we can. And they were shocked by that statement. And they said, well, what's the fastest you've ever done this before? To which we said 9 months in a day for 1.2 million square feet at Conair's third building, which is just north of Glendale Avenue, about 107th Avenue. And that was the fastest to date. White Claw has bested that because of some pretty aggressive engineering practices where they actually laid the foundation of the apron first. And then they poured the foundation. Then where the foundation was curing after the underlying infrastructure, they poured the walls on the apron for the trucks and then craned the walls from the apron to the foundation. That saved many, many weeks.
It did. It's amazing to see with John and his team and everyone that's there, the kind of excitement and the passion to move that project along. It's no different than, and we've been along your side when we broken ground together with an exciting property to cutting a ribbon to ultimately celebrating a milestone anniversary for a business here in our community. And I think it really goes to show the testament of the commitment from Glendale, and it starts at the top in how our council sets priorities and then works through Kevin, our city manager, and in through your team. And I know a lot of times it takes support from all the other departments, and they may not always understand what you and your team are up to because there's so many things happening at one time. But you look at the Top Golf project, for example, and when their leadership within their corporation said it was the fastest Top Golf open in their history, that really is something for you and your team to celebrate, but it really is a win for the community because it was that much quicker. Jobs were intact, and again, another amenity within our surrounding area to enjoy it and practice. So Brian, what would you say? You've been doing this a long time. You are truly a veteran. I've never worked with a better economic development team in my 20+ year chamber career. You, Jesse, Lori, Randy, the entire team. I mean, truly, you've got a dynamo team. So this question is specifically for you because you worked on a lot. So Glendale's your baby. You've watched it grow. What would you say has been one of your favorite projects to watch come to life? And I don't want to pit you against any of the others because they're probably all equally exciting in their own way. But what would you say is probably one of your most favorite projects? Doesn't have to be the favorite, but one of the most favorite.
I would probably say, just thinking of one that was the most impactful for me, it would probably be the Renaissance Hotel, the Expo, the parking garage, and the convention center back in 06, 07. And that is from the point of view of, it's really the first time for me, and I was thinking my late 20s, hard to believe, but I think I was. And I was so excited to work with Bill Killian and the whole group out there that was building on behalf of the private market that owned the tower and us and the other 3 structures as a city on behalf of the citizens. And knowing that there was a Super Bowl date that did not move. And no matter what happened, you had to overcome any obstacle in order to make a C of O date that activated, the media center was 3,000 media folks were coming from around the world because the Super Bowl day wasn't going to change. There was no room. It wasn't an option. And it's really like the first time in my experience as, a human being on the planet that was the case for me. There was absolutely no wiggle room. And so as things happened along the way and you had to learn to be comfortably uncomfortable with risk profiles, with how we did, the planning of the building with impeding and structural and mechanical and how we aligned the permit process and how it normally should work versus what we were forced to do in order to make it. And it was an amazing it's where I learned collaboration. It's where I learned that trust is a currency and that relationships matter everywhere. And that if you were worried you could create a friendship that would last a long time as a result of people really just locking arms and staring at each other, and really maybe bloodshot eyes from fatigue, but you're looking at each other. Well, we did it. I didn't think it was, it just looked so impossible on paper, but it wasn't. No different than Conair wasn't impossible. And after that, White Claw's not impossible at 7 months for 1 million square feet. Oh yeah, you can do it. If there's a will, there's a way. And I'd like to say, kind of bringing that whole thing home, that when I was fortunate enough to meet the Crystal Lagoon folks that are now public as of September 8th, and last night's final of 7 agreements approved last night, which were the additional 4 agreements. Bill Killian is a contractor general of all the contractors in the country. He's back again to build the lagoon project. So when I saw him show up at the Renaissance, ironically, we hadn't seen each other, since then. It's been many, 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 many moons. And we show up, and there I am, and there he is. I was so shocked and happy to see him. And he was very shocked and happy to see that I was still in Glendale. We knew we had the Lagoons project because we had the relationship between Bill and I, and this particular city's, like you say, the council, Kevin in the city manager's office, those that support him in the clerk and in the city attorney's office, and all the other department heads. As a culture, we are now different. It doesn't matter if people know our secret sauce. They have to emulate it. You have to be able to be that and manufacture it, and then have been doing it for decades, so that all of a sudden you get lucky. I really don't think it was lucky. I think it was serendipitous that people like Bill Killian and others before helped me to understand that relationships are everything. The human dynamic overcomes all kinds of obstacles. And if you like somebody and you appreciate them, you don't mind if they're calling or what hour. It doesn't really feel like work. It feels like an opportunity to talk to someone that you think is pretty cool, and that you're all trying to pull the rope together. And that was sort of a huge payday for me to walk in that office and see Bill Killian and get to do the other 15-story hotel and then, $500 million project with Bill again, and then meet his new friends that are also attached to the project. So it's just, for me personally, it's so great. And then I get to do that with this team, like Randy, Jesse, Lori, David, Daniel, like the whole group of everyone that's here that are practitioners, and they get to see and feel that camaraderie and that the why behind everything that we kind of talk about, but they get to experience it live. They get to see that I'm also much older now, at slightly right at 50. They get to see what kind of that looks like 20 years later, to bump into somebody that you did something with. They're like, and you're still alive, because they're young. So it's nice.
You've come full circle. You've definitely come full circle with it. So you touched on one thing, and we're getting close on our time here. One, it comes down to relationships. And I think you and I both know the importance of those relationships. We're fortunate as a chamber to have a great working relationship with you and the entire team. Been a part of many conversations and many exciting things over the time that I've been in place and that you've been there. To help our folks, what does it mean for you when you have projects today and you're working with these partners and things like that? How do you connect in with the chamber? How does the chamber add value to what you do as a key partner?
Right, yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting because I think every person is the process as they mature through the cycle of understanding how many universes there actually are and how connected they are. That's no different, in the practice of economic development or planning or urban design or building safety or engineering. It's the same way with the chamber. You're like a universe in and of itself that has a fabric that's connected to the business community, to the development community, to the entertainment community. You're kind of everywhere. And the people that you know and the relationships you have, when you commingle them with who we know and what we have, and when we sort of leverage our resources as namesake entities, both with Glendale proudly displayed in our names, it's the way it feels to partner things together. It's the comfort. It's knowing that you guys are always there to help us to figure it out last minute. And to try to, even if we do have an issue that goes bump, it's fun to call you and say, hey, I've got a little issue. Here's what the hopes and dreams are by the outside entity. Here's what they're trying to put together. Here's how the media would like to talk about this experience. Can you help us find a company, 1 or 2 companies, or can you help us find a company that would serve us in this instance to create this overnight and need it tomorrow? And you've always been there to help us with any number of what seem to be disparate things, but they're all in the speed to market business. They're all in the relationship business. They're all into the betterment of America, betterment of our state and our community. And I really appreciate what you and your culture does within the chamber to partner with us on, no matter how fast and how crazy the ask is. It's nice to call you, even when I think it's impossible to watch the look on your face or listen to you go, what? Oh, I said, need some help. And it's nice to know that you're always there.
Well, and I think that's the most important thing, is we're in it together, and there's different roles that we each play every day, and there's things that you and your team are going to exclusively do, and there's things that we do as a chamber and many other partners. But knowing that we can rely on one another, count on one another to deliver the best economic development experience, because while we have a lot of big, exciting projects, there's also small scale projects and infill and different things. I mean, there's many facets. The one thing I would say, Brian, is knowing you, we could go on probably for the next 2 hours. hours and go on because we would probably still never cover it all. Before we depart, and one thing is we'd love to have you back on Good Morning Glendale with us. When it gets a little bit safer to do so because of COVID, we'll probably be out in the field and go into some different industries that we don't ordinarily get. So I'll invite you to join us from time to time when your schedule fits, or if it's better for Randy or Jesse or Lori to join us, because we want to touch industries that our member base and the business community don't really get the connectivity with. So I know you'd be of value there in your team. But before we wrap up, anything that I left out asking you today that you want to highlight on about economic development or what you're up to? I don't want to leave you with, oh, I had one more thing I wanted to share with everyone, because your list has probably got 1,000 more things to share, but we'll save that for another day. But one more thing that you want to share out with everyone?
Sure, I would just say that there's the notion of arrival and the notion of density and massing and placemaking and perception. Those things all together about Glendale are what is different today. It is very, very, very different. The community that Glendale is becoming, from just a perceptive point of view based on the massing of what we are in Arrowhead, what we are in the 303 now, and what we are in the old part of Glendale, as well as Westgate specifically. We are seeing luxury 4-story multifamily come in that's typically reserved for Midtown Phoenix, Tempe, and Scottsdale and the South Valley. We are now, for the first time as a West Valley city, seeing this kind of, these in mass. We have thousands of units that are under construction or in design review and construction drawings presently, 3,000 of them to be exact. And they all are 4 stories. And there aren't any of them presently. And so what that says to folks that are looking to hire people is, oh, they're at a price point with types of jobs that pay certain wages where the folks can afford and demand this type of residential, the millennial class employee. They need 40 to 50 restaurants in one area, as Westgate has. Hundreds in the case of Bell Road. They've got multiple options for shopping. They've got casinos. They've got Dave & Buster's. You've got golf, Top Golf, regular. You've got all the sets of amenities, places to get luxury cars fixed, and any other type of automobile. It's about Glendale and the perception of Glendale, the types of jobs and the types of housing across a wide range of industries that has changed. And it's changed all in the last 2 years. And so I wanted to say that sort of spontaneous combustion of the mass, or how dense you are and how heavy you are, you can begin to attract other satellites from larger distances. And the goal we have is there will be no reason to travel to the East Valley to find any other goods and services that you can't find here. And we've been doing it for years, ticking them off one by one. And we're enjoying the process. We're enjoying it together as a team, as part of a larger team. And it's nice to wake up, excited about the day and about the opportunity to knowing that you have support right above you, right next to you, and other departments out in the development community. We have such a strong headwind. We have such inertia with cranes and by the notion of how we're thought of. And I'm very grateful to the council, to Kevin, and to my colleagues and everyone I work with, for, including yourselves, for the chance to have Glendale be here, because it wasn't here. It was a dream for decades, and many, many decades, probably before me, for Glendale to be perceived in the open market the way it is today.
Well, one thing for sure, Brian, is, Glendale is a gateway to the West Valley. What has been happening over the last few years is short of remarkable. We're changing the face of the West Valley from a quality of life where you can live, work, and play. We have a dynamic workforce that continues to become more robust, an attraction, a diversification of industries, housing opportunities, because what speaks to someone of a different generation,
Right.
Whether they want, a larger home with a larger property or smaller, turnkey, you and your team are really focused on trying to make sure that we become the best of the best when it comes to the West Valley. And so I can't thank you enough. Again, we will have you back, as well as others on your team. For those at home, if you're not paying attention to what's going on in, say, the media, because there's a lot of news going on, things are hot in Glendale right now. They're very hot. A lot is happening. The chamber is very actively engaged and in tune with what's going on, because economic development is the driver of our economy, the jobs, making sure that we have those things in place. And it's thanks to people like Brian, who has amazing passion. If you haven't met him yet, next time we're in person, we can have an in-person event. We'll make sure that Brian's out there, because you can't help but love Brian. They have an amazing Facebook page. It's fairly new, about a year maybe now, less, but it's called Grow Glendale. So follow them on that. I know Lori and the team puts out all the great updates and information. So Brian, with that, thank you again. We appreciate everything you're doing, because we know that it equates to jobs, quality of life, workforce, and it keeps the wheels of our economy going. So with that, folks, we thank you for tuning in to Good Morning Glendale, and we'll see you the next time. Have a great day.
Thank you.